Hi, my name is Amy. Thank you very much for watching, and let's make some bad financial decisions together. This is for entertainment purposes only, so if you're entertained, please like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate that. So tonight I want to start with talking about Aaron Talks Money. I was watching this video the other day, and the video started out with, there's this new portfolio recommendation, and I gotta warn you, it's controversial and it's risky. And I was like, ooh, Erin is going to start talking about crypto, isn't she? Because maybe I'm in a little bit of a information silo, but for me, like, that would be the ultimate, like, yeah, don't put too much crypto in your retirement account. But it wound up being that apparently there's a new study that recommends that we are in 33% domestic stocks and 66% international stocks. So I used Perplexity to make sure that I'm going to talk about this correctly. The paper was Beyond the Status Quo, a critical assessment of lifecycle investment advice. It was published by the Social Science Research Network on November 1st, 2023. And they used the Monte Carlo simulations to simulate the 4% rule and like how much money you had. And it turns out that because it's all in equities, your ups were more up, and because bond markets haven't really been responding or acting the way that has been traditionally expected since the mid 90s, you actually have more money if you do this than if you're 100% into domestic stocks. And then she goes into her surprise at this because a lot of domestic stocks have international reach nowadays. So like Professor G's portfolio of SCHG, SCHD, and VU, does that hold up to this new paper? Who knows? But I do know that in the short term, if you got into VU, or if you were 100% invested into VU, you would have had $11,000 at the end if you had put $10,000 in March of last year. And if you were in VXUS, you would have $9,772.57. But if you were in XDTE, you would have slightly more money than if you were in VU. That's $11,335. Misty, you would have had $21,416, and WiMAX, $10,847. So maybe the reason why I think that international works better is that maybe it's not as volatile as VU, and that way, if the drawdowns are less, it helps normalize it, because half of the battle with her, like half of the reason you win in the stock market is just not losing as much. So that would make sense to me, but it's going to be really interesting in a few years where people do studies and papers, and it's going to wind up being like, if you were in 2/3 Bitcoin and 1/3 domestic, you would have been a millionaire next year. And you could forget about this 4% rule because you're now a billionaire because you invested 2/3 into Bitcoin. That is not financial advice. Nobody in their right mind would do that, but it makes me feel a little bit better with my Misty being 50% of my portfolio right now. Like, maybe someday there will be a paper that says, I'm also looking forward to the papers that discuss high income ETFs, because the reason why XDTE is outperforming VU is because of the distributions, and it kind of smooths out the volatility, and so your drawdowns are not as much. And with XDTE, if you invest in it for long enough, and because there's price appreciation, by the time you retire, if you do this for 30 years, you should not have to do the 4% rule. Like, you shouldn't have to withdraw your principal. You should just be able to live off of these dividends. And that is exciting. Nobody is assuming that the regular investor knows how to do options for themselves. And therefore, and these things are only 2 years old. And this study is also 2 years old. So I wonder how long it's going to take for us to get research backed what we've all known intuitively, which is if you have more income, you have a better life. And if you're getting distributions, you don't have to draw on your principal. But it's also true that since you're sacrificing some of your growth, your upside potential, for the most part, like if we put MSTR in here, we would have had a lot more. Let's do that real quick. And you say like, okay, well, if you do MSTR, you would have had in not even almost a year, you would have had, $3,000 more if you had just been in MSTR. But at a certain point, like I'm doing twice as well as at the S&P 500, I can sacrifice a few $1,000s, because if I had to withdraw 4% from MSTR, there's no guarantee that when I withdrew the 4%, it wouldn't be at a very low price point, and I would actually wound up with less money than this, or even less money than this. There's just no telling. So I'd rather just have it show up in my bank account as income. So that's just me. And so let's talk a little bit about, since we're talking about investing anyway, my new Financial Philharmonics channel. This Embrace the Red thing that I just uploaded, I was watching Tom Nash, and he mentioned the investor pendulum, and he was using a graphic kind of like this, but we swing back and forth between fear and greed, and the sentiment that we experience right now, or in the market in general, it can change so fast. Like, we're so greedy, and then something happens and we're so fearful, and it's just a really big roller coaster where you feel the fear, and then you sell, and then you have anger and denial, and it's good again, and you lost out. And so I wanted to make a song that incorporated the investor pendulum. So that's what that was. And then I was scrolling through my YouTube videos, and there's a thumbnail that was like, the rich are they're coming after the wealthy, and I was like, oh no. And then I was like, you're not wealthy. You never will be wealthy. You might be rich someday, but I really just want to be financially free and living comfortably and be able to just play with my dogs and not have to worry about anything. So that's what that, and it's kind of cute, not gonna lie. And then I Feel Like Some Wine Max is a country song, and it's a parody of Man, I Feel Like a Woman, but because it sounds completely different, it is nothing like that. So at least the lyrics are a parody. So it just makes for a good country song. That's all I'm gonna say. And then I'd like to do a shout out. Hold on. Hi. So I was gonna shout out someone, but my dad called and I got interrupted, but my throat's a little sore, so I don't really want to re-film everything. And then I did do the shout out, and it made it into a 30-minute video. So how about we end this video here? And this is my website, YieldMight. And so, like, if you have $500 to invest this week, you could get $5.30 from YMAX, and you look in this and everything's good. So let me know what you think about these new age portfolio proportions, and do you think that in 5 years we'll have the same recommendations from the experts, or will they move towards a third domestic and two-thirds international, or a third high income, or whatever? And I will talk to you all later. Bye.